The Jesus Method Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Things have been going crazy since October 7th, with Hamas coming in, causing terrorist attacks on Israel. For right now, the casualties as of October 23rd, there's at least over 1,400 plus dead in Israel and almost 5,000 injured. And in Gaza, there's 5,000 plus dead and 15,000 plus injured as of right now. There's been tons of casualties. There's been plus 30 plus Americans dead as of right now. And so we want to just discuss it, break it down for y'all, bring in biblical accounts of it, bring in historical accounts, and just have a discussion between all three of us today. So please enjoy, comment below, share, like this video. Let's get to it.
My thoughts on it so far, it's been kind of honestly, it's been like for me for like a tough thing to watch. Because honestly, I feel like sympathy for like both sides of it. Because I know that Israel is fighting off a terrorist group. But at the same time, I do know that there are Palestinian people who are trapped in this struggle and this fight, who have nothing to do with the circumstances, right? So there are people who have gotten supplies cut off in order for Israel to kind of fight against Hamas. But then at the same time, it's also hurt civilians necessarily who are not part of Hamas. So for me, it's been pretty much a struggle to watch because I know on both sides it's been a rough go of things. So
Well, yeah, speaking about supplies being cut off, I know there's supplies coming through or trying to come through Egypt right now. But the thing is, when it comes to supplies, a lot of people are blaming Israel for Gaza not getting supplies. But most of the time that's been happening is Hamas has taken all the supplies that Palestine or Gaza has received and using it for weapons or just destroying it. They had water pipes that was for their water supply system, and then they used it to make missiles. And what I hate about this too is Israel government went on record saying that they're fighting Gaza. I mean, pardon me, they're fighting Hamas. Their enemy is Hamas, not Palestine or Gaza. It's Hamas. And so they've been trying to attack Hamas, but Hamas likes to kind of use their own citizens as body shields, to say the least. And so the civilians get caught in the middle because they're being used as cover for Hamas. And so that's why I think brings a lot of shame to it.
Yeah, it's definitely an unfortunate situation. The worst part to me is that I kind of agree with Kyle how there's a lot of people that aren't really even quote unquote like involved, in even wanting to be fighting or whatever, wanting to, be out, for lack of a better word, war, that are being, just mistreated, abused. I did see an article where they released two hostages, I think, and the fact that there's even people being captured like that is just it's wild. Um, that's which it comes along with things that happen like this. People when they want something really bad and they have hatred in their heart, it comes with it. It's unfortunate, but it is super sucky. But because that's Israel's it's a beautiful place. It really is. Like there's so many different things that have happened there. Like the scenery in itself. I know a guy from our church has been there, and it's such a beautiful place. So it's a shame that it's all that's going down there because it's supposed to be a beautiful historical place, and there's just a lot of turmoil and hatred going on there right now. So it's unfortunate.
Well, most of the turmoil that's happening is over land and more so over the Holy Lands because a lot of people like to deny God, to at least deny um, the historical accounts of the religion of Israel and just religion overall. You know, a lot of atheists try to point out God doesn't exist and all this, but people take their faith very seriously, and you can see that evidence that there must be some form of higher power, which I believe is God, from the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Isaac. But to say that, a lot of it has to do with the land, and they see it as their holy land. And so a lot of the turmoil is over the land, and the background of that is the faith of both parties, because the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, for Jews, it is the most sacred land, and for Muslims, it is their third holiest site. So a lot of that has to do with just the tensions of that and whatnot. That's part of
Yeah.
it. It's not fully all of it, of course, but it's just part of it.
I mean, the real question is like, how long is this even? One side eventually either. I mean, I don't really see an end, quote unquote, to it, because both sides. I mean, I just saw an update just now, 26 minutes ago. There was another blast bombing, whatever you want to call it, at Jabalia. I think that's how you pronounce that. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. But it's just like I don't like I don't know. Like I don't know if there's even gonna be a quote unquote, end to all the chaos. Because I mean, one side's either gonna have to get their way or one side compromises.
Yeah, well, to me, this makes sense. Both sides are waiting for a Messiah, basically. The Jews are waiting for the Messiah. They don't believe Jesus was the Messiah. They are waiting on the Messiah to bring peace. The Muslims are also waiting for their leadership, waiting for their own Messiah to come through. And so this all plays in my head, at least to me, what I believe is this is where the Antichrist can really step in and become the face of peace, the face of hope, the face of stability, the face of ending war and bringing on prosperity. And that's why I believe this all could just be a huge precursor to the events that are going to be happening way in the future or soon. I'm not one to say that's going to happen tomorrow, the end times, or anything like that, but I believe this is all just a precursor of people wanting some form of savior, some form of world peace. And that's what the Antichrist is going to offer. But we all know, well, not all of us all know what's going to proceed during Revelation.
That's like Kyle said before a while back, how it's the funniest thing people say, like getting closer to the end times. It's like, well, yeah, we can't get
Can't get further away.
yeah, can't get further away. But that's like even in the United States, right? Like not to take the spotlight off Israel or anything, but like there's a really honestly a controversial point for Christians because like we're called to pray about these things and pray for God's peace to come, God to move. But at the same time, some stuff has to happen. You know, some things we can't control, we can't stop, like evil is going to be evil. That's going to happen whether we want it to or not, unfortunately. But I think it's definitely it's hard for like there's a fine line between understanding that some things have to happen but still believing that we have to pray for people that their hearts would change.
Yeah. And I mean, I was looking up on it, and somebody was saying it really depends on like what side you decide on, of what you believe is like history or not, right? So like for Christians, we believe that it's Israel's land because God gave them that land, right? But people who don't see the Bible as fact, they go on the history of the fact that Palestine was there and the Palestinians were there, and then it was given parts. It was split up by the Britain government, right, during World War II, because Palestine decided to join with Hitler. The Jews and everyone else in Israel decided to join with Britain, and once the war was won, they split the land, right? So a portion of it was given to Syria, a portion of it was given to Palestine, a portion of it was given to Jerusalem. I mean to Israel. So then what happened was there was a rebellion, right, from Palestine, right? So then what happened was during that 6 day war, Israel actually takes Gaza, the Palestinian area, and the little bit that was given to Syria, right? So once they take all those areas, the UN steps in and says that the land that they took was against the law because they're not allowed to keep that land. So like the UN has like this law about conquesting and taking over land and different things like that. Um, so once they did that, what happened is Israel kept Gaza but released portions of Palestine back to Palestine and gave that area of Syria that was belonging to Syria back to them. So what ends up happening is in about, I think it was like 2003, Israel backs out of Gaza, and in 2006, Hamas is voted in as the leaders of that area. So
It
Hamas
was
has been
2005 when they left.
2005.
Yeah.
2005 when they left, 2006 whenever they were voted in, right? And then so then once they left, what pretty much happened was they were voted in, and Hamas had already been established as an anti-Jewish group. Like that was the point of the Hamas whenever they were created, was to fight against Israel, was to completely eradicate Israelis. So then they became into power, and now they've decided that they want necessarily what they feel like is their land, which is like all of Israel. So I mean, and it's hard to as a Christian, I guess you could say, knowing the history, like believing the Bible and the history that the Bible gives, that the Israelites actually took that land from the Canaanites, and then Palestinians ended up getting the land, and then the whole separation and everything and the wars and stuff started happening. So I guess I kind of get it from, if I'm being honest, I kind of get it from both sides, the struggle of it, because it's like, well, our Bible tells us that we own this land. Your scripture tells you that you own this land. So it's like, and if it's holy land, then it should go to the person who necessarily owned it first. So that's kind of where the struggle, I guess, that I'm saying is where it's coming from.
Well, that's why also though, and you can give, I don't know if you would call it credit, is just something that um Israel is let known is that, Israel controls, or so you can say, the Jews control Jerusalem, but they do not allow their people to go to the holy mountaintop, the holy hill, where uh where the Muslims are allowed to. The Muslims are allowed to. Israel allows the Muslim to worship on the temple site, but not the Jews, just so they can keep status quo. So they keep that. And another thing is too is we can take as far as we want to with historical documents and whatnot. But I think what's also very, complex is people are supporting not Palestine and not just like the people, the civilians there who are caught between the war, but actually supporting Hamas. There's been countless marches and protests in the US alone in support of Hamas. They say Palestine, but when you go to actually watch what they're speaking about, they're calling Israel completely evil, and what happened to Israel on October 7th was completely justified and it was okay. It's very hard from what I've seen and read that, there's a lot of people who say they support Palestine, but when you say, but was it right for them to, for Hamas to perform a terrorist attack on October 7th? And they're like, well, I mean, it happened and it makes sense. And so I think it's wild that there's so many people supporting what the terrorist attack. And I believe, in all honesty, Hamas is a bunch of, this is my opinion now, but Hamas is a bunch of liars. The organization, it's a terroristic group that is anti-Jew. It is racist. And people who claim that racism is bad is still supporting Hamas in the United States. So I think it just opens up a whole can of worms about, okay, what do people truly believe? Do they actually have any standards? And if so, why is it doubled? Why do they have double standards? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just kind of crazy that people are legit supporting Hamas, not Palestine, and like, hey, we need to get uh, the citizens out of there. We need to put them somewhere else. They need to go to a different country or whatnot. Even though um, a lot of countries have been denying access for people in Gaza. It's not just Israel saying your people can't come here. It's also a lot of the neighboring countries as well. But yeah.
Well, I know with the because like what you're saying, like it's not Israel saying that. Like in the whenever they did actually become their own nation, like in their Declaration of Independence, they actually want asked for Palestinians to stay. So like it was never like during like the mass immigrations and different stuff like that, where they were like separating and different stuff like that. Like they were never asked to leave their lands, never give up their property or anything like that. Um, Even the leader of Israel at the time, literally, there's a video of him saying like, "We want y'all to stay. We want you to keep your lands. We want you to build Israel to become a great nation." But I guess, like you said, it's like there's like a separation of like, well, there's this view of free Palestine, right? But everybody's taking a view of free Palestine as freedom from Israel, when right now what they need to be freed from is Hamas, because had Hamas not attacked, there would be no war going on right now. And the thing that like kind of what kind of make like puts me in a struggle, right, is I was watching a video, they were talking about it, and they were saying like Israel built the wall between themselves and Hamas, right? So before the wall, there was 1,500 terrorist attacks a year. After the wall, it dropped to 80. So it's like, how can you be upset with them? I understand there's people struggling on the other side because of that wall, but I'm like, how can you be upset with them for protecting their own people, right? So, and that's where it kind of puts me at a struggle, is because it's like, yeah, I understand the struggle of the Palestinians, and I do not want, like, as a Christian, I do not want anyone to have to go through that struggle. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I have to understand, like, if the fact that I would have to protect, like, if it came down to it, I would choose to protect myself and my family and my own people
Mm-hmm.
compared to others if that was the choice that it came down to, you know? And
Yeah,
it
like,
sucks, but that's an option that, and a choice that I'm sure mostly everybody would take the choice of choosing.
just like, you know, you could have a neighbor and they're struggling, they're starving and everything. They need food, they need water, and you can try to help. But if they start attacking you and your family, you're going to put your wall up and protect what is yours, you know? And that's just how it is. That is,
Yeah.
God designed us to protect our family, especially as men.
Right.
God designed us to provide and to protect. And also another thing with what you were saying, or to add on, was that with all these attacks from Hamas, there would be no war right now if it wasn't for the October 7th attack. And so that does bring a interesting point to that.
Yeah. I mean, that's like with anything too, though. I know from working with people who, leads have to give out their numbers to their different associates. It's just a kindness thing. I mean, like you were saying with being the neighbor. At some point, if you're not careful, your kindness will get run over. So, in that sense of like, which my dad talked about it before, with the whole Israel Hamas thing, and he was talking about how there's good and bad on both sides. Like there's good people that are in Palestine, and there's vice versa. It goes both ways. He said it's just it's an unfortunate series of events, but at the end of the day, it's they have to do what they feel is right for them. And protect their land because, like Kyle said, that's your property. You're gonna protect your people before you let someone else just come and run over you.
Right.
And I've been seeing a lot of people now, which I mean, I understand because people are citizens are getting hurt. So that's why a lot of people saying, "Hey, we need a ceasefire." Thing is, I wasn't seeing that after Palestine went or Hamas went in to attack Israel, like on October 7th. I didn't immediately see people say, ceasefire, hey, y'all need to stop. But once Israel started to defend herself, then people were like, hey, hey guys, whoa, y'all need to stop what you're doing. You're defending yourself. And now people weren't saying ceasefire, but they were saying ceasefire as soon as Israel started to defend herself. And the reason why is because Israel, for the most part, is great at defending itself. And so when you have a terrorist group, even though it's large, it still doesn't perform as well as Israel's military. So when people see that, it's like, stop it, you're hurting the little kid and stuff. But it's like, you got to defend yourself. And thing is, you defend yourself, but if the enemy is still attacking you, then you still are continuously having to defend yourself and then at times go on the offense
Yeah.
or the offense to
I mean, if
end
we're
it
being
before
totally
it
honest,
even
war's
started
not
at.
fun for anybody. Like, I mean,
No,
fighting
not at
isn't fun.
all.
Like, neither side wins when you do a fight. Like, literally,
Yeah.
because even if it's not the situation, right? Even if you're just in a fight at school and you're in middle school, right? And some dude pushes you and you get mad and you punch, y'all both lost your pride. Like, it doesn't
Right.
it doesn't really benefit anybody.
Well,
All it
I mean,
is
I
pride.
understand that, but I mean, I get your example, but it's also like I would more so be like, "Oh, you came home and you seen that somebody just beheaded one of your friends." It's not gonna be if you
Well, I'm
went
just
on
saying,
the
even in the
attack,
simplest form,
you
I'm
wouldn't
just
be.
saying, even in the simplest
Yeah,
form of a fight, there's
yeah,
still no like, there's no winning. Like, even the person that wins is gonna think about what they did because at the end of the day, in the middle of a fight, you're gonna do things you normally wouldn't do because you're in a mindset that isn't what you're usually thinking. So you
mhm,
might, beat somebody up to death, and after you're like, dang, I probably could have not hit him 20 times. I could have done like just one, good one and walked away. So
yeah.
it'd be like no one wins at all.
When it comes to nobody wins, I slightly disagree with that. Just looking at the historical accounts of other wars that happened, I mean, nobody won per se the Civil War except for the Union and then the slaves being freed.
I'm saying as far as
The
loss.
yeah, I
Like,
mean,
if you send 20,000 soldiers into a war and
mhm,
you get 5,000 back and you lost 15,000, it's not fun to lose 15,000. Maybe you won the war, but you still lost 15,000 people. That's why
yeah,
I'm saying, like, in that
oh,
sense, like,
definitely,
it's not a like, yeah, maybe you won the entirety of it and you got what you wanted, but you
mhm,
lost something in the process of getting your so-called win that you wanted so badly.
yeah, and I understand where you're coming from because Romans 12:18 says this, It says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So it does say, it's interesting, it says, as far as it depends on you and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, but with that scripture, do you think the United States should step in, or should they stay out?
I'm of the aspect, usually when it comes to war and political nature of war, I tend to want US to stay out as long as possible, unless our own people are starting to get killed. I mean, if we can offer to support, then that's fine. But then the caveat to that is, from my research, the US has had their hands on both sides. I'm not talking about bringing like food and whatnot, supplies to the citizens of Gaza. What I'm talking about is uh, the US helped with bringing military gear to Palestine, or allowing that to happen months ago, or maybe a year ago. I can't remember the timeline. And then they're also, helping with Israel and funding Israel. So we're part of it. We don't have any soldiers on the ground yet, I don't think, but we do have our hands kind of dipped in the water for it. And I could understand the hands being dipped, but I'm not ready for us to be submerged in it, because I think if the US goes ahead and gets involved, there's still a war happening in Ukraine. Like, that is still happening right now. And with all that being said, I think it could lead to, I'm not going to say World War III, but I could see it as becoming a more complex situation where multiple countries are involved in warship, and it could tie all in together and become such a crazy serious thing where the US is starting to draft men again.
The way I look at it is like if you are an ally with that country and if you're friends with the country, like flip that around, right? If we're in a war, um, and if our ally countries just stand there and watch us and don't come and defend us, like we
Mhm.
would still want that help. Like, and I'm not saying, unleash every single missile we have on Palestine or Israel, vice versa, whatever, however you want to put. I'm not saying to do that, but like being an aid is still very, very important because the same way, like if you guys need help, like when you were moving your stuff, I brought my truck and helped you move stuff because, like, at some point, if I need your help, I want to be there for you as well, or Kyle the same way. Like, we help each other out because, we want to be there for each other at the same time as someone else is. So that's how I see it personally. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're gonna, I think you should help so you can receive help as well.
Right. And
I
I,
think
I
there's a
kind of
difference between help and then bringing our own soldiers over there for them to risk their life. But then not only that, but if we step in, then possible allies of Hamas will also step in. And so it could become a bigger conflict that nobody is truly ready for yet, especially with how the economy is, with how the United States is doing, because the United States is doing awful right now. And that's why I think we should just really take our time with how we maneuver in the situation of the war with Israel and Hamas. I'm not
well, I
saying
think
don't help at all, but yeah.
I think it's kind of past that point of like just staying back, right? Because the U.S. by obviousness has already been involved, right? So Joe Biden pulls out of blocking Iran from selling weapons. Iran has completely said they support Hamas. They completely said that they will send weapons to Hamas. Then, the way he pulls out of Iraq, they have already stated that Hamas is using U.S. weapons, right? Because Iraqis and Iranians and everything have moved in and taken over those bases. And because they moved out so fast, there were weapons, vehicles, everything left behind that they said that they've already proven that are being used as U.S. weapons. And then, not to state the fact that he's already said that he's like, they have already been debating on whether to send in troops to Israel. So it's like the US is like kind of seeming to playing this part that's like the mastermind of the war, right? It's kind of what it's starting to look like, right? Because they're allowing Hamas to receive money,
Mhm.
weapons, different things like that. But then they're saying, well, we'll also send in troops for Israel to actually help them like with supplies and different things like that to help them in order to fight off them. So I feel it's kind of like it's past the point of, well, they just need to sit back and watch because at this point, their fingerprints as the US in whole is already implanted on this war, regardless if they step in and send troops or not.
And that's why I was saying that the US has kind of had their hands in it because they have contributed to both sides, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. So I do get that though. I do get that. I just would want us to really take it a little bit slower, but at the same time, war is war. And what I will say though is I kind of want to see before we say, okay, let's send in the troops. Um, Israel is now bringing in foot soldiers into Gaza right now as we speak. It was happening a few hours ago, or maybe the past 24 hours. They've been sending in tanks and also bulldozing the ground to allow soldiers on foot into Gaza. So they're about to take it into the country right now, inland.
Yeah, which I saw something that said it what sparked it was they a 22-year-old girl that was captive from the 200, like I think it was like 250 people that got captured during a music festival. She was like 22 years old. They beheaded her and sent her back to Israel. So then now they've gotten to the point of, well, we're not going to, well, they're still going to like try to talk to get them to get people back. But they've decided to put foot soldiers on the ground because actually saw a video of this gentleman. Um, he he was a father and he had an 11-year-old daughter, and he found out that his 11-year-old daughter had been killed, and he actually was happy about it because they had been because what had happened is it was reported that they were capturing people from Israel, taking them into Gaza, and like were doing things to them, starving them, and different things like that. So he was actually saying like that it was the best outcome that could ever have happened because instead of them being able to capture his daughter, it was actually where one of the bombs actually landed because he said he was trapped under gunfire for 11 hours and he couldn't get to his daughter because he had sent her to a friend's house. So like he literally had said he had to sit under gunfire for 11 hours until the Israeli forces actually came through, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's stories like that that really humanize the whole event. That's just not numbers being thrown around, or it's like this country versus this country, and you like kind of put your mind through like a video game simulation about the outcome of this. What happens if you do this? What is the result of A plus B equals C and that type of stuff. So yeah, that humanizes it because there's so many things going on right now that's just horrifying. And we definitely have to pray over that situation. And that reminds me, I'm going to pull it up right here. See if I can go ahead and screen share.
Did you want to say something, Michael, while he's pulling it up?
Yeah, Micah, you want to say anything while I'm
You
pulling it
roll
up?
us there, dang, okay. I mean, yeah, it does. I mean, it's like I said before, it's incredibly unfortunate that people that really I don't want to say maybe that they're not have an opinion or whatever, but that you have people that are like our age that are being killed, having things that are extremely terrible done to them. Um, just to try to, prove a point or try to get somewhere with it. It's just, I mean, it's heartbreaking and sad. That, 11 hours of gunfire and then to find out that your daughter, you know, got deleted is just, that sucks.
And as Christians, I think we can stand to this, especially since we can't do anything about the conflict on a physical manner, but spiritually, this is what we can do. And Colossians 3:15 says this: Let the peace let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, and since as members of one body you were called to peace, and be thankful. Another one, if I can find it, is Revelation 19:11. And this kind of just, in an odd way can help give you peace during times like this where world war is happening in the world, and it seems like everything is out of control. But if we read Revelations 19:11, says this: I saw heaven standing open, and there before me was a white horse, whose rider is called Faithful and True. With justice he judges and wages war. And I love the little um, quotation or added remarks to the bottom of this. This verse portrays the future return of Jesus Christ, the ultimate warrior, as he judges and wages war against injustice and evil. It serves as a reminder that there will come a day when all wars and conflicts will cease and God's perfect justice will be established. So even though it seems like everything is out of control and there's nothing that we can do, and that everything is just out of hand, it is still in God's hand, and He is the ultimate warrior. He is the final say. He is the ultimate warrior, and He will stop and He will judge, and His judgment is righteous and pure. And so remember, when things are like this, that we can put our hope and faith in Christ and know that everything is going to come into fruition. I can't say. Everything will come together, and He has the final say and the final judgment. So I think that's something we can hang our hats on.
Yeah, it is tough for it's honestly, I feel like a lot of Americans are almost spoiled in a sense because we get to live in a country where, granted, not everything is perfect. I understand that. The economy is not great. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, when you've got countries like Ukraine, Russia, then you've got Israel and Gaza or whatever that country's called. Um, I don't judge me, anyways. But my
Yo.
point, my point is that we are truly blessed to live in this country, and I think that we don't talk about other places enough. As far as praying for them, and asking God, to help them, because I think we can, for lack of a better term or better way to say this, we can happily sit in our bubble wrap and not worry about what's happening to other people or other countries. We definitely need to be knowledgeable of it and definitely pray for them because they are going through hell on earth right now. It is not easy for them. I wouldn't want to go through what they're going through. I couldn't imagine if my sister, for instance, got taken to a different country and was tortured. It's stuff that we can't really put into perspective in our brains, but we have to try to understand it to an extent because to them, that's their real life. That's their reality right now.
And I guess for my closing statements, I would just have to say that no matter what side of the coin that you fall on, if you decide, if well, not if you decide, if you are a Christian, you have to realize that regardless whatever side of the war that someone is on, that is still a soul, that God still loves that person and He desires for that person to be saved. So we have to go into this war, to these discussions, with the mind that each person on each side is still a soul that needs to be led to Christ. That whenever we decide who to support, whether you support Hamas, whether you support Israel, that you have to understand that there's people on both sides who need to be freed from this struggle. There's people on both sides who did not ask for this war to happen, and that they should not be scrutinized, they should not be ostracized, and they should not be mistreated just because they're Palestinian or Israeli in the end. So just remember that regardless, that God loves every single person on each side, and that they all have souls that need to be led to God.
That was some big boy words, my man.
What do you mean?
Big boy words. He said
word.
Oh
ostracized.
yeah.
man went deep with it. He went to Webster's
Mhm.
Dictionary on that statement. He was like, I'm being bougie.
And shout out to Kyle. Y'all check out his new podcast. He does little segments of faith, difficulties of life, and such like that. I'm going to be on there. He released his first one last week, I think it was. Was it last week?
Yeah.
And it was good. I took a listen to it, and y'all check it out. What is it called? Strong Towers?
Yeah, Strong Tower Studios.
Okay. Yeah, y'all check it out.
And the new episode will be out Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then y'all check out Micah's song Sun.
I was getting ready to say, I don't get no plug. Wow, you don't know the he
Sunrise.
Does, wow, you don't know
Sunrise,
the name.
right?
That's wild.
No, I just looked it up. It's Sunrise, right?
Yes, that is it.
Yeah, I thought so.
Have you even listened to it?
Yeah, I actually have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've listened to it twice so far, actually. So.
I haven't listened to it.
Dang.
I'm joking. No, I'm joking. Micah, I've heard it 1,000 times. Remember, I kept hearing it while you were making it.
True. Yeah, that's true. but yeah, the song for Clarification, so this is a Christian podcast. The song isn't necessarily a worship song or a Christian song, but it does not have any like
satanic song
I know
right there.
It doesn't. It doesn't have any cursing in it. There's nothing in it that's like inappropriate. It's just a clean, fun, upbeat song. I'm going to release
his first
worship
song
music.
he posted isn't even about his Lord and Savior. Wow.
You know what? No, actually, no. You're not right about that one.
Oh,
because love is in the Bible. Loving your spouse correctly is in the Bible, and this song is about just enjoying time with your significant other.
Okay.
The so pastor's kid would be singing music not about Jesus.
Oh my. What's funny is the next song isn't Christian either.
Man, making his father proud each and every day.
Hey,
Michael's going to come to us. He's like, I'm releasing a Christian album, but none of the songs on it are Christian.
I am doing a Christian album. I am, but not.
Nah, I'm just playing. Y'all have a good one. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to our channel.
But no, we love y'all. Thank y'all for the support.
We love y'all. Thanks.
Hopefully we start posting and recording more consistently, hopefully in the near future. But thank you guys for your support. And you enjoyed this amazing episode of Breezy saying wrong words.
Yeah, wrong words with Fab.